give the opportunity for the candidates to lay out their platform. We've created them to try and cover as many of the hot topics in the state of Kansas as possible right now, and for them to choose how they want to lay that out to win your vote. This will be one of many different debates that will be going on throughout the state of Kansas this year, but this is the unofficial launch. Now, I saw that there's a apparent protest somewhere. I don't know where it's at, but let them do their thing, because we're here to win. We're not here to go outside in the cold and yell at each other, because that's very unproductive. So we're going to do something productive here on this stage tonight. Here's how it's going to work, and I want everybody's attention for this one as you're trickling in. As we do the debates, we are going to introduce the names of all the candidates and have them all come out at the exact same time. That's where you get to go crazy. We're doing this through the media, so right at 4 o'clock in about 8 minutes, we will go live and hard. I will have you go crazy behind me as if you're very excited. You can even pretend to do so, even if you're not. I will introduce all the candidates. They will come out on stage. That is your chance to go crazy and cheer. Please, I encourage you, do not make noise or disrupt during the debate, as we want to get through as many questions as possible. And with the time we're giving the candidates to answer, then we want to run through as many of them as possible. So please do not interrupt the debate during the debate, but you do have the chance to applaud as they come in, and we will have one media break where you can go crazy on that as well. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an introductory speech, 90 seconds to answer a question, and if they are called out by another candidate, 45 seconds to rebuttal. And we will go down the line and let them answer their questions. Everybody understand? Yeah? All right. Also, please turn off your cell phones, or at least turn them on silent, so that way it does not disrupt anything going on, like the one that's calling me right now. Outside of that, who's ready for a debate? Who's ready for the Republican convention to kick off 2026? Yeah. And who's ready to see Democrats lose again in the state of Kansas? By the way, how's it going with President Trump in the White House right now? We want to keep that agenda going. We want to make Kansas great again. Let's do it. All right, everybody get situated. I'll be down here at the moderator's table, and I will chat with you in just a few minutes as we get started. All right, everybody, if you're not in yet, go ahead and get your seat. We're starting in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. We're getting started. All right, we got 2 minutes. 2 minutes until we get started. There, supposedly. Yeah, go ahead and check them and try and share it out. All right, we got 1 minute until things kick off. 1 minute. Go ahead and get seated. Let's get ready for this. 1 minute. Thirty seconds. 30 seconds, everybody. All right, here we go. If we can quiet the audience, go ahead and quiet the audience. Welcome into the first Republican Governor's Debate of 2026 across the state of Kansas. We are broadcasting live out of East Wichita at the Marriott Hotel at the Republican State Convention, the Winter Convention of 2026. And we are excited. We have a great audience behind us. Everybody, give yourself a round of applause. Welcome. As we kick things off for election season 2026, it is going to be a great night. We have 6 candidates on stage. We have a lot of questions we're going to try and get to. Here's how the rules are done. There will be no cell phones from the audience, so we do not get interrupted. Also, they will hopefully not interrupt during the questions, as we want to get through as many of them as possible. The way we did this, all 6 candidates behind about 30 minutes ago were able to draw to know exactly what order they will be going in, with 2-minute introductory speeches, 90 seconds to answer a question, and 45 seconds to respond if they are called out. And we will go until 6 p.m. this evening with 1 media break in between there. That being said, is everybody ready for this tonight? Are we ready to see a Republican governor back in the office here in the state of Kansas? Then without further ado, let's go ahead and do this. I'm excited as we have all the candidates coming out momentarily, but to introduce them properly in order from which they will be on the stage and to answer questions tonight. We're starting off with Charlotte O'Hara, former state representative from district number 27. former Governor Jeff Colyer as candidate number 2, current Secretary of State Scott Schwab, the current Senate President Ty Masterson, businesswoman and former Wichita City Council member Joy Aiken, and businessman Phil Sarnecki. Come on out. There we are. Thank you all for first coming out here tonight. It is going to be a great debate. As we mentioned, you get 2 minutes for an introductory speech, 90 seconds to answer a question, 45 seconds to respond if someone does mention you. If they mention you indirectly by the position that you hold in any fashion, I will also consider that an opportunity for you to rebuttal in some fashion. And that being said, welcome to the first Republican Governor's Debate of 2026 for the state of Kansas from the Republican Convention here in the state of Kansas in East Wichita. And for that, you know what? I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to turn it over to our first candidate with her 2-minute introductory with Charlotte O'Hara. Charlotte, please.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Charlotte O'Hara. Hey, Doug. Oops, who told me that? Anyway, I have traveled extensively across the state. And what an honor it is to meet so many wonderful, conservative Kansans, because I live in Johnson County, and sometimes it gets a little lonely there. So it's really wonderful to go out and chat with the folks. I was raised on a farm, so when I get out into the hinterlands of western Kansas, down in Bourbon County where I was raised, all over the state where we have ag is the king, I feel very, very at home because I learned equal opportunity leaning into the flank of an old black Holstein cow. So I know all about the farm life. We're going to have some real difficult discussions this evening because Kansas has a real problem within the Republican Party of a vast sea of rhinos masquerading as Republicans. The top of the list is our insurance commissioner, who's not here. She is pro-death. She is a gun control advocate, and yet she is our insurance commissioner. Our Senate President has some issues of working with the Democrats too often, I think. He's working with her on the Chiefs' star bond deal and was congratulated by her for fast-tracking the Apex Panasonic deal. And then we have our Secretary of State, who in Johnson County ordered the destruction of the 2020 ballots. And that was evidence in an active criminal investigation. Thank you so much.
You bet. Former Governor Colyer.
I have a lot of friends here on the stage and also out in the audience. Tonight, my bride, Ruth, the love of my life, is here as well. You all know me as a fifth-generation Kansan from Hayes. And in our house, you stood for the flag and you knelt for the cross. I'm running for governor to make this the best place to raise a family and have a small business. We will be the beating heart of America once again. So what's the plan? First, Biden and the Democrats have made everything more expensive. We will put more money in your pocket with higher paying jobs and lower taxes. You will have a property tax lid you can count on. Second, we're finding across the country and in Kansas that school districts are trying to transition children without their parents' knowledge. Your kids will get a world-class education. It will be about education, not indoctrination, because we need to educate our kids because skills pay the bills. Third, we will get rid of the $1 billion in fraud in SNAP and unemployment that Laura Kelly has wasted. Fourth, we will protect our families and our communities and get rid of criminal, illegal aliens that threaten your families. And finally, we will restore Kansas common sense. Men will not be in your daughter's locker rooms. No kid will be mutilated on my watch. We will make sure that we secure our sacred, God-given rights for all Kansans. Kansas needs a proven, strong, competent, conservative governor who will fight for you and who will stand shoulder to shoulder with President Trump. This is about winning. This is about taking back our state so that we are the beating heart of America once again. And tonight, I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Scott, before you start, Ty, I know you were mentioned in the first one. I'm going to give you an extra 45 seconds during your opening statement, if that's all right. There we go. Okay.
Is that on?
No, that's okay. Yeah, I want to give you an extra 45 seconds during your opening statement since you were mentioned in that one.
Thank you.
But I want to continue on with the opening statements here.
I have a son going through puberty, and I think this is the first time in the past year his voice actually sounds better than mine. I called him and he laughed. He goes, "You sound horrible." I'm like, "Thanks, son. That's a real booster." Scott Schwab, Kansas Secretary of State, second term. And just real quick, I'd like to answer that. After so many months, the law says you have to destroy ballots. When there was no warrant and we were waiting and waiting for a warrant that never came, the county voted to go ahead and destroy the ballots. And so it was really more on the county level than myself. The reason why I'm running... Forgive me if I have to take your time. The reason why I'm running is basically three things. We need to modernize, revitalize, and fix. When I became Secretary of State, I came into a computer system purchased in the 1980s by Jack Breyer. And so we migrated off it. We went annual filings to biannual filings. Not huge, but it cut our workload in half. And so then we're able to cut fees. If the legislature wants to get aggressive on cutting taxes, it's up to the next governor not to increase spending, but create margins so that we can afford those tax cuts. So day one, I'd tell every agency, you either modernize, reduce, or both. The other thing is, when I go home to Great Bend, the town looks different. Our rural communities are getting smaller, and we're the agricultural epicenter of the North American continent. Sorry. We need to leverage that to bring small manufacturing back to our rural communities, and also make sure our rural communities have the highway infrastructure that they need. And then the last thing is fix. Our appraisal system is jacked up. If I sell my house for less than it was appraised for, do I get a tax refund? You probably should, which is why I released my bald plan. Part of it is it got attention, and two, it caused people to read it. By simple things, by holding the software accountable through Department of Revenue, and 3 of those platform pieces have been introduced in the Senate already. So it's not just the mill levy, but what it is an appraisal process that's creating a real estate bubble. And in 2008, when the last one burst, it hurt. We have to make sure it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senate President Masterson, you get 245.
There we go. Thank you, Andy. You think I know how to work a mic by now. Well, I'm going to start with actually a little bit of the response. That type of thing is why we lose in the general election, particularly. We spend time cutting each other off at the legs, right? The whole, what's the Reagan quote of, 80% of my friends, not 20% my enemy. This is not the enemy. The Democrats are the enemy. So that's all I'll have to say about that. So I'm running because I'm a battle-tested, proven leader. And I have the record and the relationships to continue to deliver. We have a moment in time. Donald Trump is in D.C. right now working every day to put more money in our pockets, keep our streets safe, and dismantling that woke agenda. That's exactly what we've been trying to do in Kansas against a Democrat governor machine and the bureaucrats behind her. Since I have had the lead, we've had some strides forward. We have banned the transgender in the sports, protected our girls' sports. We have a constitutional right to carry and defend ourselves. We banned the DEI in higher ed and in the executive branch. That's a journey. That's a journey to go. We've simplified the income tax. We've taken state tax off property. We've taken income tax off Social Security and food. But I got to tell you, it's not enough. We haven't even begun to touch the real tax crisis in this state, which is property tax. I have an elderly neighbor that told me literally he was paying double in property taxes alone than he had been for his mortgage, his interest, his insurance, and taxes combined when he paid his house off 20 years ago. That is also robbing our young people of the American dream. Home ownership is the underpinning of the middle class. And now the first-time home buyer age is 40. It's unacceptable. It has to be dealt with. I'm also running to make sure every kid in Kansas has access to world-class education. And every parent has the freedom to choose that path for their child. I'm running to have our streets be safe, our families be safe, and support Donald Trump as he takes on the drug cartels and the criminal illegal aliens. Ultimately, what I've learned in my spot is in the legislature, the sword I wield is just not powerful enough to slay the dragon of government overreach when you have a Democrat machine in the office. Donald Trump is a battle-tested, proven leader, and he is delivering for America. I am a battle-tested, proven leader, and with your help, we will deliver greatness to Kansas.
Thank you very much. Ms. Akins.
Good evening. I'm Joy Akins, and I'm running for governor to lead a Kansas comeback. Kansas should be the best place to live the American dream, but it's not, because for too long, career politicians have been stewarding our decline. You see it everywhere. We're paying more than we ever have for education, but our kids aren't getting one. Our taxes are more like California's than our neighbors, and our people are leaving because they can't find opportunity. We need a new leader, someone with bold vision and a proven track record, and tonight I hope to show you that's me. I've spent the last 17 years building the most successful data consulting firm in Kansas. And with customers in 160 cities and 27 states, executives all over the country seek my advice when thinking about strategy, growth, and culture, because they know results matter. As a former Wichita school board member and former chair of the largest chamber in the state, I've had a front row seat to what happens in Topeka for over a decade. And what I've seen is too often career politicians are protecting their own power instead of serving the people. It doesn't have to be that way. A Kansas comeback means a great education for our children, where every family has choice and taxpayer dollars are focused on student outcomes, not administrative bloat. It means real tax and spending reform so Kansas is competitive. And Kansas comeback means businesses and entrepreneurs, they grow, invest, and innovate here, not because the government's handing them your money, but because it makes sense to do business in Kansas. That's the approach I'll take to every issue as your next governor. I will fight for Kansans to have real opportunity, and tonight I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sarnacki.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you to the other candidates as well. It's truly an honor to be here with all of you. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Philip Sarnacki, and I am a husband to my beloved wife Heidi of 27 years, who's sitting back here with the sign. I am a father, and I'm a business owner. For over 3 decades, I've been building businesses and creating jobs, including all over the state of Kansas. And like President Trump, I've never run for office before. I grew up in a blue-collar family. My father was a janitor. My mother was a secretary. And we didn't have much money, for sure, but over 56 years of marriage, my parents taught me what was truly important in life. They taught me about faith, they taught me about family, they taught me about hard work, and they taught me about sacrifice. And back then, you could raise a family on hard work and sacrifice and even a modest income. But we are losing that in Kansas today. Our income taxes are the highest in our entire region. Our property taxes are completely out of control. And we have businesses, we have jobs, and we have good Kansans leaving our state to find better opportunities. And in spite of Donald Trump winning this state 3 times by overwhelming double-digit margins, Republicans have lost the last 2 governor's races to a liberal Democrat. Career politicians are failing us. I am tired of watching Republicans lose in Kansas. No more losing. It's time to start winning again, and that is why I'm running for governor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. For the first question, we're going to go to you, former Governor Colyer, and we're going to go to the economy. Many of you already touched on it, but the state legislature this year is discussing a potential constitutional amendment capping property tax valuations at 3% each year. If you become governor, what else would you do to help give tax relief to Kansans?
So here's the issue, is why are taxes high? Because spending is high. Spending is up 60% since I left the governorship. Is your life 60% better? Are you getting 60% better education or services from the state of Kansas in the last 8 years? We all know the answer to that. We need to control property taxes because they're growing like topsy. Now, there needs to be a constitutional amendment, a competent, strong amendment, and it takes care of the entire mathematics. The math of this is the appraisals and what they cost, and it is also what is the mill levy. You multiply those to get the total amount. You have to control both of those, and that's what we need as a constitutional amendment that puts a cap on all of that. We need to control our appraisal process. We need to make it more professional. We need to make sure that it is in line with the economics of the state, not some random appraiser picking out houses randomly. But then having the local community raising the mill levy without your approval, that's insane. We need to control all of this. But in order to get there, you need to control the spending. And here's what we did. We eliminated 5,500 unnecessary state employees, and nobody noticed. We were the first state to privatize our Medicaid program. I ran that. I designed it. It saves us over $1 billion a year for the last 15 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Scott.
So when I go, whether it's Great Bend or I'm in Hayes or even out in Hoxie, property taxes is an issue. But if you talk to our real estate agents and you also talk to our people who want to develop our towns, they're concerned about putting anti-free market principles into the Constitution. And it's a fair concern. We want to make sure that if you're going to cap something at 3, but what if you cap it at 3, but I put a dormer and a basement on my house? You can't reevaluate that. But the house next door that already has that was included in theirs, suddenly it's inequitable. So we have to make sure we're protecting whatever we end up putting in the Constitution as it relates to property tax lids. It has to be free market. The other thing is, in my ball plan, I said, whatever unit of government is wanting to raise the mill levy, it goes to the vote of the people that are subject to that jurisdiction. If they want to raise property taxes on themselves, then that's their deal. But there shouldn't be just a panel of 3 or 4. And I will say, as Republicans, when we run for school boards, we often talk about social issues. We need to be talking property taxes. When you're running for that county community board, we need to be talking property taxes. Because the money is not going to the state. We can eliminate 50% of the people working for the state, and that's not going to help your property taxes. What's going to help is put budgetary restraint on local units of government, as opposed to building Taj Mahals and mission creep in our schools, that they fund things that schools were never intended to do.
Thank you very much. Ty.
Man, I got to figure that mic out. Well, thank you for that. Obviously, I mentioned it in my opener. The property tax crisis is the #1 thing we have to do this year. But regardless, it's an all of the above approach. Just like Donald Trump with his working family tax cuts, you're working on both sides of the ledger. You're cutting taxes and growing economy, bringing investment into the country. I want that investment in this state. We're going to do everything. We're going to continue to ratchet down. We were able to put a ratchet to take our 3-tier income tax to 2, and now it's ratcheting to 1, and that's got a ratchet to go clear down to 4%. We're going to continue to put more money in your pocket through your income tax. We're going to go after the property tax, put more money in your pocket through the property tax. We've even lowered the corporate income tax while I've been there, but it's just not enough. Until we get a governor that will sign these things, and we don't need overrides, we can't get there. We will also implement the aspects of the working family tax cut from the federal government that also benefit Kansas. We will do a lot of that even this year, and I'm the only one up here that can produce that. We will do that, and we'll continue to do that in the future moving forward.
Thank you very much. Joy.
Well, I've been talking to Kansans from all over the state about their property taxes. People like the Riedels from Ellis who've joined us here tonight. You know, these are hardworking people who are following the rules and then opening their appraisal statement and getting a total shock because appraisals have become a backdoor tax increase for too many families. So listen, I'm really excited tonight because we're releasing our property tax reform plan tonight. And after the debate in our party right next door, you can go and get a copy of that. And we'd love to talk about it some more, but it does three things. First, it makes appraisals fair and predictable. We're not going to cap it at 3%. What if inflation is less than that? That's what it should be, because families shouldn't get a double-digit increase when the house down the street sells. We're going to put homeowners back in charge and put the burden of proof on government. Appraisers should have to show their work when they increase your home value. And what is with requiring people from liberal Kansas to pack up and go to Topeka in order to have their appraisal appeal heard? That doesn't make sense, so we're going to move them regionally. And third, we're going to create property tax relief funds. Look, these are fueled by growth at any local government, because the government shouldn't automatically grow its funds just because they're growing. They should put aside some of that money to buy down the taxes for people like seniors, veterans, and working families. So that's in our plan. Well, I'm happy to talk about it some more, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill.
I would like to remind everybody that the property tax situation that we're in right now, it is not a problem in every state. It is a problem in Kansas because the career politicians have failed us. Now, I know there's the 3% cap in the legislature right now on the assessment limit, but the problem is it's not enough tax relief for Kansans. And plus, if you do that, you're going to leave the door wide open on the levy side of things for people, the local taxing bodies, to come in and just raise the mill rate. So you have to plug both. That's immediate tax relief. It's stopping the bleeding. And then the second thing I will do as your governor is we will give a property tax credit to all Kansans for their property taxes. And then you say the next question is, well, how are we going to pay for that? That's a great question. We're going to pay for that for two ways. Number one, the waste, fraud, and abuse that we're going to clean up, that I'm sure we'll get into over the course of this debate that's going on. There is millions upon millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in one study I read in Kansas in waste that we can clean up when I come in as governor. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to grow the economy. One of the things out on the trail that I have not heard anybody else talking about, it gets forgotten, is what you can do with tax relief when you grow an economy. And that's what I'm going to do as governor. That's what I've been doing for 30 years, growing businesses. We're going to create a rip-roaring economy all across Kansas, and then watch what we can do with tax rates once we make that happen.
Thank you very much. And finally on this one, Charlotte.
Thank you. I was a general contractor and actually was in the business when we passed the constitutional amendment in 1986, which brought in this disastrous system that we have now. I also own a couple of industrial buildings, and in 2018, I opened up my tax bill. My appraisal increased 61% in 1 year. I appealed it just like many people do. I lost. And at the second level, I got a letter saying, you should be getting this amount of lease. We can't help that you're a bad manager. Honestly, that's what they said. I wasn't getting the lease payments that they said I was, and they said they don't care. They taxed me anyway. We have an incredibly bloated system from the state level to the local level. We are giving tax incentives away like candy. It is every tax incentive given is costing you. It is unbelievable. $108 million in 2024 just on industrial revenue bonds, the tax increment finance districts in Johnson County. All over the state, we have 101 tax incentive programs on the Commerce Department's website. 101. We are giving the wealthiest of the wealthy all of these tax breaks, and you folks get to pay the bill.
Thank you very much. All right. Let's go to the next question. We're going to start with you, Mr. Secretary, on this one.
Don't I get to answer?
Oh, you're right. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right.
I want to answer this question because it's important to us. You know, the Star Bond program.
I'm sorry. Did we started with you on this question, I believe?
You started on
You're right.
Did I start on this?
You started on this
I did
one.
start on this, didn't I?
I thought we were responding. You're right. We'll get to you next, I promise. We'll get to you back
I want to do it
here
again.
soon. You're good. You can answer it another way. We are staying on the economy for this one. So, Mr. Secretary, we're going to start with you here. Staying on the economy, we've seen the use of star bonds for big and small projects around the state for investments. In your opinion as governor, are star bonds a good way to create economic growth, and how else could we invest in economic growth across the state of Kansas?
Real quick, can I respond to the career politician thing that's being thrown around?
Yes.
Okay.
For a second. We can do a few of those if that's...
Wait, does that mean he's a career politician if he gets to...
There are a few career politicians up here.
So,
if we would like, we have the opportunity for you and Ty. And
so here's the deal. I've been Secretary of State for 7 years, overseeing 2 presidential elections, one in a pandemic. I oversee 105 county election clerks and thousands of post-election audits. Therefore, I should be the general manager of the Kansas City Royals. Having experience to understand the terrain has always been a plus in America. Whether it's Reagan being governor or whether it's Bob Dole, having experience helps. It's called learn it. And my kid wants to be in a career for 15 years. It's a career, and I'm proud of him for it, as long as you serve honorably and nobly. And they call me a career politician, but no one's insulting my integrity.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go back to the question in just a minute, but we'll consider this as the elected officials that are in office right now, if you would like to respond with that rebuttal. 45 seconds time. Would you like to respond to that? As a quote-unquote politician.
I don't consider myself a career politician, so
we're not declaring career politician, just someone in office right now, or has been in office.
On that, I would just say that comes from somebody who doesn't understand how the process works, right? That is the battle test. Look how good Donald Trump has been term 2. Look at that. I mean, he has been amazing. That first year was so impressive. That shows you what battle tested does. Right, and understanding how the machine works, how the process works, where the bodies are buried, and who to work with. That is the key. This is not. I'm a career fighter. I mean, that is what I am. It's like you don't understand. In a government like we have now, when you're raging against the machine, for 16 of the last 24 years, we've had a Democrat governor, and half of the other 4 years we were controlled by the left in our own party. Raging against the machine and fighting for you every day. If that's what you want to label me, fine, but I'm a career fighter.
All right, thank you.
Not a politician.
Jeff, as someone who's been in office, would you like to respond as well? 45 seconds.
I think I'm the least career person, but one of the most experienced. All throughout my career, I have always worked taking care of Kansans on their worst days at night. For the last 7 years, I've been out of politics. When I was lieutenant governor, I was very involved in our state. I learned a lot of what's going on, good and bad. But here's the thing. We need somebody who is competent, conservative, and has a very sharp scalpel. Somebody who will make sure that they fight for you, that understand where you are, who deal with you every single day. You know, under that rule of career politician, I guess Donald Trump would be a career politician. He was out of office, and now he's back in. When you've done the job and done it well, and you come back with it, you can come back guns blazing.
Thank you. All right. Now, career politician is off the table now for rebuttals. We'll go there. And we'll start again with the question on this one regarding star bonds, creating economic growth in the state of Kansas. Mr. Secretary, 90 seconds.
All right. Thank you. I don't know if they're the best tool, but they're certainly effective. If you look at what's going on in western Wyandotte County by the racetrack, it's been spectacular. And because of the growth, we've had our first Republican elected in Wyandotte County to the State House since the 1980s. If we do good growth, we end up getting good values. because we get the smart people. And the smart people can help educate those and lift them up. Like Reagan said, you know, a rising tide lifts all ships. And even the president has not only utilized tax incentives, but he's also provided some which has helped our country. You can't argue that. And so if we want to grow this and you say there's no tax incentives in the state of Kansas, we will lose. We will lose. We will lose. So as governor, we would always continue to look for new tools to grow your economy. How do we get back? Part of it's going to be education. Part of it's going to be workforce development. And part of it is not just going to get the big fish, but making sure our community colleges in those communities are actually catering to the businesses in their community, not just everybody teaching Comp 1 and nobody's really focused on their community. So these are the things we can do. Star bonds they're a great tool. The best tool, there's always more tools. That's the advantage of America as we get better and we get better and we get better.
Thank you very much. Ty. You guys can keep the mics on. That's okay. You can just keep the microphones on if you want.
I mean, of the tools there, it's the best because you don't have the state. The example everybody's bringing up is the Chiefs deal, right? The stadium, the headquarters, the practice field. That's what's on people's minds. Keep in mind, there's not a single. The state didn't have to raise a single tax. Not one taxpayer's on line for liability. That's bondholders. There's so much misinformation, on some purpose, false information about that whole thing. And I'm not out here to make Missouri great. I'm out here to make Kansas great. And that's bringing thousands of jobs, permanent jobs, careers even. And it's bringing investment. It's bringing $1 billion investment outside of the stadium and all those deals. That's outside of all that bond deal. Those are jobs. And I want my kids in Kansas. I don't want my kids being export. And there is moments in time, just like Donald Trump does it. He is negotiating to get big investment into the United States and have things built here. I want things built in Kansas. I want people to come here. That's what we want. And it isn't a risk. The false information is you're diverting some type of tax money. That is not the case. Nobody's going to lose any services. It is actually, the last estimate was that on income tax alone from the team, nearly $3 billion over the term of the bond. It has nothing to do with sales tax. That's just additional revenue to the state of Kansas. We want those jobs. We want those people. We want that opportunity.
Thank you.
For our children.
Thank you very much. Joy.
Thank you. I'll just start by saying the fact that the career politicians on the stage think Trump is a career politician and that's why we're all excited and that's why I get anything done, that's clearly not true. Listen, I've been very outspoken about the Chiefs deal, but it's not just the Chiefs deal. It's not just, which is the most lopsided stadium deal in the history of our country, and other states are pointing to it going, we don't want to be like that. Because it's a problem when we hand out money to companies. I'm a business owner. It's my job to make my profit and loss statement work, not yours. Thank you. It's my job to make that happen. And I've seen firsthand when government interferes what happens in the business world, and they're picking winners and losers. So I'm grateful that the Chiefs are coming, but I don't think we need to negotiate away all the great things about Kansas in order to get them here. And I'll just mention that, yes, President Trump is doing some great things internationally because he is calling them to account and making them give us what we are due instead of the weak way that career politicians have done those contracts over years and years and years. So if I was governor, this is what I would do. I would fix our education system because who wants to live in a state or bring their business to a state where kids can't get educated? Number two, I would fix our taxes because they're not sustainable at this level. And three, I would fix regulation because we are regulating businesses out of business. And that's why they don't want to come to Kansas. Those are the reasons they're not coming. And states that have done that with their governors have seen incredible things happen.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll get to talk about education some more.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Philip, all you.
I would also like to remind everybody, I heard Ronald Reagan mentioned earlier. Ronald Reagan had never run for political office when he ran for governor of California, just as a reminder. Here's my question on the star bonds. Is it working? Your property taxes are 50% higher per capita on average than every state in our region. Your income tax is the highest in the region. Your corporate tax is the second highest of every state in our region. Is it working? is giving a $1 billion tax exemption to a foreign company with a 20-year property tax exemption. Is that a good deal? Is that working? Promised 4,000 jobs. The last number I read, there were about 800 jobs. I will bet you they're not even going to get to half of that. It is by giving away these tax exemptions, it is keeping your property taxes, your income taxes, the highest in the region, ladies and gentlemen. We are overtaxing, overspending, and overregulating the citizens of Kansas to death because our career politicians don't know how to grow an economy. If we were to grow the economy by reducing regulations, let me give you an example. In Virginia, when Glenn Youngkin came in as governor, he had a goal, by the way, had never run for office. He was a CEO, a business leader. He had a goal of reducing regulations by 25% across the entire state, every agency. They did it. They did it, and we can do it.
There we go. Thank you very much. Charlotte.
Thank you. This is just an absolute graveyard of disastrous results. Where's Boeing? Oh, they're in Oklahoma. Where's Cerner? Oh, that company was bought out. Got 2 empty buildings. Actually, I think one of them was just leased after they had set 5 years. Nearly $1 billion to Panasonic. A $4.93 trillion company. We're giving the Hunt family $2.775 billion. They're the 12th wealthiest family in America. This does not work. We have a bond, star bond at 135th and Knoll. Prairie, not on fire. Their bonds, they've defaulted on their star bonds and on their community improvement bonds. We have given up on the free market, and you know why? Because Kansas is a high tax point on the prairie. My great-grandfather came to Kansas in 1869. I want to prove him that he was right in coming to Kansas, but I'm being taxed out. We have a small manufacturing company. We don't get all of these goodies. I mean, the bigger you are, the more you get. What is this? It's a failed policy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jeff.
Star bonds are a tool, and they should be used rarely and for certain circumstances. And it better be a good deal over the long run. And most importantly, and we will make sure of this, as governor, no, we will not bail out any star bonds. Kansas goes off the hook, and we will make sure that your tax dollars are not going to happen there. The real thing that we need to do is grow the Kansas economy. We need to cut our regulations. We need to cut our taxes. We're one of the high regulation states in the region. We can lower those. And yes, my friend Glenn Youngkin actually did that. We started to do that. We have a lot to do. We've got to cut our overhead so that we can lower our taxes. We gave you an $800 million surplus so that you could set the stage for doing that. Our budget right now is underwater for the 3rd year in a row. We need to make sure that we are growing our economy. And the best way to do it is low taxes, low regulations, making sure our kids have a world-class education, and that we start attracting high-wage jobs and low taxes. We're 43rd when it comes to wages right now in the United States. We need to be manufacturing. I worked for President Reagan, and the deals that he made were fantastic. I also worked for President Trump, and President Trump is recruiting businesses to come to the United States and export more.
Thank you.
What's he trying to export? Planes, agricultural goods.
Thank you very much.
That's what we're going to do.
You bet. Thank you. To the next question. Ty, we're starting with you on this one. Current Governor Laura Kelly continues to refuse providing data to the U.S. Department of Agriculture regarding SNAP benefit recipients in the state of Kansas. At the same time, now we've heard the Kansas Department of Health and Environment say will not be updating their childhood vaccine schedule to match new recommendations from the CDC. The question I have for you, as governor, where do you stand on a relationship with the federal government and the idea of federal compliance and state sovereignty?
Well, that to me is a little bit two different issues of her noncompliance and state sovereignty. So let me just start with the state is sovereign. I mean, we lost state sovereignty when we started electing our U.S. senators, but that ship has sailed, right? So we have a sovereign state. However, when we have chosen to be part of a federal program like SNAP, we need to be held accountable. That administration needs to be held accountable. They're trying to bring they're trying to bring Minnesota to Kansas. Rampant fraud. That's not like sensitive data. You're trying to hide the fraud. And we need to turn that over. When I'm governor, we will root out fraud. You know, just like Trump, he's trying to get rid of the Department of Education, turn that back to the states' rights. He has DOJ. He's trying to get into all the waste, fraud, and abuse. I started COJ because I don't have a DOJ, right? It's like the Committee on Government Efficiency. You got a great chairman involved there. We're trying to reduce all the fraud we can and simplify government because that is what we need. When that's part of sovereignty, we need to turn it over.
Very good. Thank you. Joy.
Well, Ty's right. If you're going to take the money from the federal government, there's going to be strings and there's going to be oversight, and you should be handing the data over. And if you're a data person, and you read her excuse for not turning it over, you know that it's just one more example of how she's trying to hide how badly she's handling our state. And the fact that the example of KDHE that you mentioned, I mean, I watched this firsthand during COVID. I did a lot of data work in the state during COVID to fight to get the state open. And KDHE kept turning over data that was wrong, incorrect, and she was making decisions based on that were hurting small business owners so badly that, in fact, once I had to go talk to the legislature, testify about how bad her data was and what a trend looks like. And 2 hours later, after she heard the testimony, she opened the state back up. That's right. I got Laura Kelly to open the state back up during COVID to help small businesses. Friends like Jacob Wayman, who just bought a gym that was closed down. That's what she was doing. And it's not just there. Think about all the money stolen from us as Kansans. Where did that money go? Why did we end up paying for it? We just took ARPA money and stuck it in there like that's just some other money. No, that's your money and my money. You know, I love when career politicians talk about money like it comes from different places. No, it's your left pocket, your right pocket, and your purse. That's your money. Where was the oversight to see what happened in those systems? Under an Aikens administration, that's not going to happen. We're going to run the state correctly. Not like a business, that would be naive, but we're going to run the state correctly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Philip?
Yeah, the first thing I want to do, let me address something. Somebody, I'm not even sure who it was, said something down there on the bonds that we will never bail out the bondholders. Ladies and gentlemen, any of you in the investment business in here, I have my Series 6, 63, 7, 9, 12, 24, and 66. The state could never let that happen because the prices of the bond ratings would crash, and you would have to pay a fortune to attract investors in the future. That is ignorant. It would never happen. You cannot do that. So on to the next thing. SNAP data. If anybody's on my social media, which has exploded in the last 4 months, so thank you very much. We are now the most followed candidate, Republican or Democrat, on all social media. And 4 months ago, yes, thank you, I didn't even have social media. So we are so thankful for the grassroots and how you're backing us up. But I have called on social media for Laura Kelly to release the SNAP data. And I've done it over and over and over because I want to know what she's hiding. What's going on? Do we look anything like what's going on in Minnesota? Release the information. Right now, we spend about $400 million in Kansas for the SNAP data. The average waste per state is about 10 to 12%. So even if we're just average and we can get this and fix it, it'll save the state about $50 million a year by doing that. There was another question down here on... I think it was back. Oh, I'm done.
That's right. You're out of time. You're good. Before we start with Charlotte, Jeff, you were the one that mentioned about the bailing out of the STAR bonds. Would you like a response on that with 45 seconds?
Sure. The STAR bond, when you make that bond and you make that bond rating, it is not the state's guarantee on STAR bonds. That is my position. We should not encumber the state on that. If it is a state bond that is directly related to state things, that rating goes there. STAR bonds traditionally have not had the state do it. They have their own rating, and it's based on their own finances, not on the state's finances. But I want to add one other thing. I was the governor who improved the state's credit rating for the first time in a dozen years.
Thank you very much. All right, Charlotte.
Okay. Well, I just want to mention on the star bonds, if you have a state-owned sporting authority that is issuing those bonds, the state's not going to allow those to go into default. Please. We're not that stupid. Okay, so federal control of the states. You take federal money, they have control of your state. I was in the Kansas House in 2011 and 2012 and begged my colleagues, bail out of the federal money for education because it costs us more to comply than it did to bring revenue in. Plus, now we are to the point that, we had No Child Left Behind. Now we have Every Student Succeeds Act, which brings in social emotional learning. What are we doing? But that's just one federal program. Every federal program that we take the money from, the federal government owns us. There's no such thing as state sovereignty until we decide what we're going to do on that. And education is the first one that we should address. Why are we spending over $300 million a year for the State Department of Education when they have an F? They are failing our children. We are spending $50 billion a year on a non-governmental organization in Greenbush to create curriculum. What?
Thank you.
50 billion? I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
50 million. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Jeff.
So regulation from the federal government happens. Okay, you get in these programs, the state administers them. So when I was governor, the food stamp program was one of the best in the country. We had one of the best compliances. We were running in the fives. The day that I left office, it started creeping up, and the fraud in the SNAP program increased 150%. That's millions of dollars out of your pocket, and the federal government's going to penalize us even more, another $60, $70 million, because they haven't been in compliance. We need to work with our federal partners, but it's Kansas first. And we need to do the right thing and have really solid, strong fraud programs. Look at what's happened. In the last 7 years, we've had fraud in that program. We had fraud in our unemployment program. I even had unemployment fraud. As former governor, people were filing on this. We lost $1 billion. Did you see anybody convicted, let alone arrested? No. We need to make sure that we get the fraud out of our state. And once you do that, we can start bringing back government overall. We need a state that is growing. We need to make sure that we have our honest values, our honest word. Let's be Kansas again, not California.
Thank you very much. Scott?
Yeah. I was talking to someone, they're like, well, I feed my family. And I understand a handout, but not a perpetual handout. I question if it's even really the state's data. It may be federal government's data. So my concern with not allowing to be audited means I'm not willing to be held accountable. So we're working with the Trump administration. We're working with Social Security. And this, we haven't had this in 10 years. We finally have it. We've been able to access people on Social Security, or people no longer receiving Social Security, so that they're dead. So we removed over 5,000 people that have assumed room temperature and are no longer on our voting rolls, and investigating to make sure none of them voted. These are tools that when you partner with the federal government, it makes you better. And I did it without giving up any state sovereignty. I didn't say, hey, we're going to surrender the way we do elections. We didn't. I didn't say, hey, we're mail-only elections in Kansas. We didn't do it. Didn't have to. They are partners. And the Trump administration has given us tools to make us better. And if you get a chance as governor to use a tool like that to make your state better, why in God's green earth would you not use it? It makes no sense.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right, everybody take a breather. We're going to take a quick 3-minute media break, so don't leave the stage. Everybody here, how's it going so far? Enjoying it? Yeah? All right. We're going to take a quick media break. When we come back, we'll start off with Joy for the next question. For the first Republican governor's debate in East Wichita at the Republican State Convention.
That was a good catch. You didn't go there.
I have my phone in my pocket.
Hey.
Thanks for reminding me.
Who's going to call out Colyer? He keeps saying he's tired. You didn't leave. I lost the primary as the sitting governor. You didn't leave. Oh, okay. Oh, 20 minutes? Okay. I love these ladies. They're great. You bashing all the good politicians. How do they bring Trump into play?
Yes, I know.
That's not the public records. I mean, Gordon Maxwell, but
Yeah, but I mean, I know they told you that they wanted you to run. What is this guy doing?
they honestly think it's not.
They are racist.
How we doing?
It'll be whoever the next one is after. Whoever did that last question, they started that one. It'll be the next one. Exactly. Yep. All right, we got 1 minute. 1 minute till we come back. 1 minute.
Feeling good so far?
It is. Yes. I want to try and get through it, but see, we don't have pretty quick.
2 minute increments.
I know, yeah. It's a lot of time, but we can give us plenty of time to do it. So, 30 seconds till we come back.
That's so hot.
I'm good, thank you. Hey,
10 seconds. 10 seconds till we come back.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to it. We are at the Republican Gubernatorial Debate 2026, debate number 1, as we start off election season, midterm election season. And one more time, the crowd out here. Who's excited? Who's enjoying this so far? Again, 6 candidates up on stage for the Republicans as we go through and officially kick off the official, unofficial launch to midterm season. And we're going to jump right back into the questions here. Last time we started with you, Ty. This time, Joy, you're starting off this question. And the question is, coming up in the August primary this year is a constitutional amendment to reform judicial selection in the state. Do you support this change in the process? And how else can we rein in a radical Supreme Court in the state of Kansas with one of the worst records of overturned cases in the nation?
Yeah, well, if you're a Kansan and you know anything about the history of Kansas, all you need to know about how we have judges today is that it's called the Missouri Rule. It's a terrible way to select judges, and I'm really thankful that we're going to get a chance to vote on that because our judges we elect judges all the time. We elect judges in Sedgwick County all the time. It's the best way to get the best people, and they should be accountable to the people of Kansas. And thank you. I think if you think about how often they've been overturned, you know this, you've seen it. It's over 80% of the time. But all you have to do is think about the Carr brothers who are in the news again for 25 years or more after brutal murders and rapes. They're still waiting. The families are still waiting for justice because the justice system in Kansas and the Supreme Court does not reflect the values of Kansans. So I definitely support it, and I'm hopeful that we can get it across the line in the primary at the same time you're voting for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill, you're up, my friend.
So the answer is, do I support it? Yes, yes, go to the ballot box and vote for the constitutional amendment. Our system is so broken. 6 of our 7 judges right now are extremely liberal. And not only that, but think about the fact that they control spending on the education side. It comes from the judicial branch. No accountability. It should be on the legislative side. They should be responsible for it. And we have got to make sure, I mean, everybody, win, lose, everybody on this stage, we have to make sure that this constitutional amendment goes forward so we can vote for Supreme Court justices in Kansas as we go forward. And by the way, we need to make sure there's an R and a D at the end of their name as well,
Amen.
so we also know who we are voting for. So let's make sure that we make that happen. And that's it. I'm good.
Very good. All right. Short, sweet, and simple. Charlotte, you're up.
Okay, yes, I support it. The system that we have right now is totally controlled by the Kansas Bar Association. And since the 1950s, they have held us hostage, especially during the 90s when we were going through all of the school finance, even up to and just recently. And we still have that held over our heads. And that is one reason that our school budgets are so bloated and our property taxes are so high. Yes, we have to have direct elections of our justices, and we have to do it statewide, because if you do it in districts, it is going to absolutely decimate the reason why we did it, and absolutely it needs to be a partisan election. We have to stop allowing the Kansas Bar Association control our life through their erroneous judicial decisions. They are the reasons that we are the killing fields in Kansas with the abortion rate of 19,811 lost babies in 2024. Let's get our Supreme Court justices by the people and for the people.
Very good. Thank you very much.
So here's the Missouri plan. And you look at it from the position of being governor and lieutenant governor. The Missouri plan is we have a committee. They're going to select on merit. That committee is 5 trial attorneys chosen by the trial attorneys and 4 people chosen by the governor. No wonder there are no conservatives. The only conservative they got through was my general counsel, who worked for me and for Sam, and he's a fantastic justice. If you read his readings, he is amazing. So yes, we support this. It needs to be a partisan election, so you know who they are, just like we need to do on all of our local elections. We need to know who they are. But we need to return power to the people on the 3rd branch of government. But then there's a whole lot more to this. We have an appeals court underneath there. We changed how that appeals court was selected through statute so that we could have more conservatives come on. As a governor, I have appointed district court judges as well. And you have to interview these people. And you have to ask them the hard questions. And if they won't answer it, I wouldn't appoint them. We need to make sure that our justice system is working through district courts, appeals courts, and the Supreme Court, so that Kansas actually has a court system that supports our ideals.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Scott.
I support it. And people complain about election judges. One of the best jurists in the state is Jeff Gehring, right down here in Wichita. And nobody's complaining he's elected. I would say that they need to run statewide, but we have to make sure that all the justices don't just come from Johnson County either. So we need to make sure they represent the state. My frustration with the current system is we get judges that say, well, where's a state founded by Puritans? They hated slavery, they wanted women to be able to vote, and they didn't even think you should drink alcohol. But they thought it was okay if you had an abortion on demand. I mean, come on. Nobody's buying it. But now it's in the Constitution, and what I call the Kinzer laws. Lance Kinzer, for 10 years, passed all this great pro-life legislation. And one by one, They're peeling them away and throwing them away, say that infringes on a right that has never been written in the Constitution. I'm K through 12. There are 4 school districts out of over 280 that sued the state. Our school model is based on what those 4 school districts wanted. And the Supreme Court, get this, the state school board was sued, but the legislature had to provide remedy. That's essentially saying, I hit your car, but Ty has to pay for it. That's what the court has done to completely derail the state. And it's time that we hold them accountable, and they don't want to be elected because they can't justify the record. They know if you know what they do, you won't let them be there. I always tease, because right now we do retainage. Should this judge be retained? Well, okay, let's just should every school board member just be retained? No, it's a yes or no, or you don't get the job. And you have to provide merit, not to a panel of a few, but to the under 3 million people in Kansas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ty.
Yeah, thank you. So this might surprise me, but as important as I think this race is, that question on your ballot is actually more important. This is, no matter who becomes governor, even if you can make it 2 terms, 8 years, that will make a generational shift in this state. And it's so necessary. They mentioned Missouri. It is the Missouri model on steroids. We're the only state in the country that cedes the power of that commission to 5 lawyers elected by only lawyers. I think I can demonstrate how important this is. This is a super informed crowd because you're sitting here, and I know that. How many of you know we had 2 Supreme Court justices resign this year and one's been reappointed? Don't feel bad if you don't know. That's the problem. It's not in front of the people. You elect the governor, you elect the legislature, and you have no say in who manages the highest court in the land. We need that voice. We need you. We need that voice. That's how we get away from. I mean, we have no caps on damage, state-owned casinos, just overturn the death penalty. It's a host. They're the most overturned by percentage state in the country. And it's Kansas. The point is they do not reflect the Kansas people, and in order to do that, you need to elect them.
All right. Thank you very much. Philip, we're starting with you on this question here, and we're going to go to education. Our current governor has deemed herself as the, quote, education governor. Each year proposing massive spending increases in education with her budget proposals overall. As governor, is that approach you would take in education funding? And how would you raise quality of standards and potentially even expand school choice in the state?
So I think it kind of goes without saying that our children are our future. And if we don't get this right, Kansas doesn't have much of a future. We have so many problems with our education system right now. And let me start here. One of the first things that I would do, we have less than a dozen charter schools in our state. And one of the reasons is they're approved at the district level. So essentially, the competition is approving the charter schools. We need an independent board to approve charter schools, and then we also need a way to scale the good charter schools that are doing really, really well. That's the same kind of thing you would do in a business. You find a department or a division that's doing well, and you're going to scale it. Or you're going to find a company that's doing well, and you're going to scale it. We, on education choice, the Center for Education Reform ranks us 50th as a state in school choice. Dead last. They gave us an F. CNBC ranked us 48th and gave us an F on our economy. So here's what the career politicians have given us. An F on our economy, according to CNBC. I guess we're ranked 48th. It's better than school choice, where we're ranked dead last. We're ranked 50th. And we also have an F on school choice as well. This is not a spending problem. We are 15th in spending. We are 40th on NAEP scores. There are too many problems around the input, too many regulations. It's another typical kind of government problem where we're over-regulating the input and not focusing enough on the output.
Thank you very much. Charlotte.
Well, education is near and dear to me. I do have a degree in education, and my whole family. My brother was the head of a community college. My dad was on the school board, and were teachers. And the problem is that we have allowed the federal government to set what our standards are, and that's through Common Core, and then now Every Student Succeeds Act, and bringing in social emotional learning. We have to cut those ties. We have to move the decisions of curriculum to the local level. This idea of high-level control does not work. Our children are absolutely being held hostage with curriculum that is absolutely interwoven with woke agenda. I homeschooled. By the 90s, I saw where our public schools were going. And I thought, if they lost me, they're in real trouble. Because I love education. Education is like part of who I am. And we are not educating our kids. We are indoctrinating them. Cut the ties with the federal government. Push it down to the local level. Close the State Department of Education, because that's $300 million of failed dollars spent.
Thank you. Very good. Mr. Colyer.
So I ended 50 years, 13 governors had all been under Supreme Court orders on education. The Supreme Court was wrecking our budgets, and they were running our school systems. Jeff Colyer is the one who ended that. And Laura Kelly, God love her, we actually funded the first 4 years of the Kelly administration on education. That was Jeff Colyer that did it. But we had something else. We were requiring that money start going into teacher pay. We were starting to get outcomes out of this. We enforced that every child that's a senior gets an ACT test. Well, you know what's happened since then? They've hired 57% more administrators. They have not raised teacher pay. They've started to spend money on all sorts of woke ideology. There are several school districts that are trying to transition children here in Kansas and not telling their parents. That is an abomination. That is just insane that parents can't control this. We need to make sure that we have choice in our education system. If your education is failing you, you need to be able to have another school. We need to make sure that our kids have a classical education, one that focuses on reading, math, and on the real world things in technology that are ahead of us. Our kids need to be facile with AI and other technologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Scott.
Getting rid of Trump wanting to get rid of the federal Department of Ed would be a huge help, a huge help. Never needed to be created under the Carter administration. The other portion of it is that you hear the argument, well, if we have school choice, it'll ruin our public schools. Why? Well, they'll choose to go private. But if your public schools are so good, why would they choose private? They wouldn't. And so they just don't want competition. And really, the best thing that we could do for K through 12 is just get rid of the KNEA. We do not have to recognize them as a union on the school board level. And it used to be the administration, the KNA fight, but now they lock arms to attack the state and take tax dollars, and they never get enough. And the K through 12 mission creep is toxic. It used to be K through 12. Now it's a professional sports franchise. Now it's a soup kitchen, a mental health clinic, and a health clinic. They have gone too far, and we can't afford the ever-expanding role of K through 12 on the public dime. They need to be held accountable by competing with private schools for tax dollars. And I think they'll compete well because they got a lot of resources. But to say no, that would destroy our school, I think is a stretch. And let's get rid of the KNA, okay, schools. School boards just don't have to recognize them as a union, and therefore you don't have to negotiate.
Very good. Thank you very much. Ty.
Yeah, thank you. And she certainly hasn't been the education governor for every Kansas kid. You know, Donald Trump gets it. That's how we got in the working family tax cut, the tax credit. And we will. And our governor, that was left to the governor to authorize. She will not authorize it. We're going to have to use legislation to go around her and authorize that. So she is not the education governor for everybody. Every kid needs a choice. And by the way, when you talk about school choice, at the government level, the state level. You're talking about for low income, because rich people have choices. Go get a tutor, go to your private school. But we're talking about kids. We have kids trapped by a zip code that their only choice is a failing school. That is not acceptable. We have to address that at the Kansas level. And then I love that Trump's getting rid of the Department of Education and bringing it down. We're redrawing our formula next year. I hate to be critical of my friends on the stage, but we still have a bill from 2018 that is mandating we put the CPI increase in for K-12 every year, regardless of outcomes. That's been $400 million in just the last 2 cycles. And our outcomes are going down. We do have to support public education because that will always be the main way kids are educated. But we can do that. I mean, it's getting cell phones out of the public classrooms. We actually have a perverse incentive for teachers to become administrators to raise their retirement. You can't blame them. It's financially wise for what they do. The highest paid person in the building should be the teacher. So those that are producing the product have the ability. That's what people want to be, is a good teacher. And so we have to make this shift, but it is not going to be easy. We'll need your help.
Thank you very much. Joy, final word on this one.
Sure. Well, whenever anyone starts talking about their record, I say look at the data. Our kids have dropped to number 40th in our country, while Mississippi's gone from 50 generationally to 4. 75% of our kids in 8th grade are functionally illiterate. That's not an education governor. I will be an education governor. Look, I put out an education plan in September. Nobody else has put a plan out with details. And it does 3 things. First of all, school choice. I'll sign it in the first 90 days. We need leadership on this. We've had a lot of talk about it, but we haven't had leadership to get it done. The finance formula, you will spend this year in Kansas $9 billion all funds on education. $9 billion. And it is incentivizing administrative bloat and CPI increases and all of these other things because Jeff Colyer signed that law because he was more worried about settling a lawsuit than making sure our kids got the right education. It has to be said. You've seen the increases. Have your kids gotten better? No, because we don't incentivize outcomes. We don't make sure that we are going to get the outcomes we want. So a new finance formula needs to make sure that outcomes get benefits, not failure. And the third thing is we do need to invest in our classroom teachers. I love that they've come along with that because I was the first one to say that in this race. I've said it for years. I said it on the Wichita School Board. Classroom teachers in other states get real meaningful bonuses.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Response?
Sure. You know, I settled that lawsuit so that we could start talking about how are we going to educate our kids? How are we going to make them better? So we settled the lawsuit. We had to. We lost once again on this. I was the governor who said, you know what? We're going to have outcomes in this. And we're going to expect that our kids start being able to read. My friend Tate Reeves, the Mississippi governor, I've known him a long time. We were lieutenant governors together. They started changing how you teach in schools. That you got to have phonics so that your kid can actually read. They went from 50th to number 8 or 9. Kansas, we're down in the bottom. Only a third of Kansas 3rd graders can read. Kids at 8th grade are not at grade. If that is happening, we are not going to allow your kids to be socially promoted to the next thing. We're not going to allow violence in our classrooms. We're not going to have DEI in our schools. We're going to make sure your kids get the world-class education they deserve.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. And Charlotte, you're back up as question to answer here. And it's everybody's favorite in this room. In the past few weeks, the Trump administration has reclassified marijuana from a Schedule I to a Schedule III drug nationwide, allowing the research of marijuana for potential medical benefits. As of right now, Kansas is only one of 2 states nationwide that has done nothing recreational or medicinal in the country, Idaho being the other. As governor, would you support the legalization of marijuana in some form?
No. I go to Bible study every Tuesday afternoon with Ron Stiles. His son was a pothead, which then turned into schizophrenia. This is a very serious drug, and his family's experience is not infrequent. We have to stand strong and say, absolutely, we are not going to legalize marijuana.
All right. Jeff.
Marijuana is not a drug that makes you better. I went through this with my brother dying, and it's the worst way to die, and he had the worst nausea you could ever imagine. And we tried every drug. They tried marijuana. All of that, it failed on him. There are no tests that have been done. There is no scientific literature. We should have the exact same literature for marijuana as we require for aspirin, for Tylenol, for anything else. It needs to be safe. It needs to be effective. And we got to have the data to do it. I think the president actually made a wise choice so that we could actually prove what the situation is, and then let's let the situation, let's deal with it as it comes.
All right. Thank you very much. Scott, let's go to you.
Yeah. Many of you know my wife is a pharmacist, and we talk about this all the time. First off, allowing it to be researched is the first thing. And if it passes FDA, thanks to Derek Schmidt, then it can be dispensed in Kansas. But it's got to be approved by the FDA. Our previous Attorney General did that already. So the problem is if you do medicinal use, as it is in its current form, or if you do recreational, a pharmacist, you can say, you know, whether it's hypertension medicine, if I'm taking hypertension medicine at Walgreens or Walmart, it's the same strength. But marijuana, you don't know what the strength is. You don't even know what's in it. And so, and the other issue we have is one, I've never seen somebody smoke pot and suddenly got real smart. Am I right? And there's not a rapid THC test, so you could be driving stoned higher than the Rocky Mountains, and there's no way to test. And it's dangerous on the roads. You look at what's going on in Colorado, production, down. Car wrecks, up. Child outcomes in schools, down. The reason why is because they're stoned. Why? I mean, why would you want to say, yeah, that's a great idea? Well, we can make money off it. We won't make money off it as a state because we don't tax health care, nor should we start.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Ty.
Well, thank you, Eddie. So, short answer is no, I don't support it. I do support what the president did with Schedule 3 because it's still illegal. That's missed. But we do need the research because it is pervasive in our nation. We're only one of 4 states that don't. We need the research to show, because it will demonstrate that it is the ill effects, especially of the synthetic THC and what it is today and what that's doing to our kids and are not our kids, but it is damaging. And so I don't support medical because around this nation, as you've seen it, there's no statistical difference between the states of medical and recreational because once they do medical in the form that it's been done around this country, you in effect have recreational. There was an Ohio study that literally studied from when they did recreational for the first 4 years, and then they authorized they had medical, then it was recreational. There was no statistical difference, and mid 40% of all their traffic fatalities were intoxicating levels of THC. I don't want that in Kansas. I know we have an issue here anyway, and you have this access through CBD, and we have all this crazy stuff like 7-OH that are in the gas stations. We've got to get our handle on it, but I do not support legalization because, as was mentioned before, you can get legal forms that are FDA approved right now. Right? That's been studied by a doctor, and so we need the research, but we do not need legalization.
Thank you very much. Joy.
Well, this will surprise everybody. I actually agreed with them down there. So we agree on something. You know, the thing about marijuana is that where it's been legalized, it costs $4 of services for every $1 of tax that they make because it creates all kinds of problems inside a culture and a state that then needs services to help people. They've talked about those well down there. And so, no, I wouldn't support it. I've watched families raise their children in states with this legalized marijuana of all different kinds of laws, and all of them have had struggles, and it's been difficult for them. And honestly, I don't want my kids in high school. thinking about marijuana and where to go to school this weekend. They're already thinking probably about some other things. I want them thinking about reading and math and getting their scores up and learning to read so that we can actually compete as a state going forward. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Bill.
I heard a famous doctor say that if you want to dumb down a nation, then legalize marijuana. And I did a little research on this, actually, because unlike a former president of ours who tried it and didn't inhale, I've actually never tried it and really have never been around it. But I did do a lot of research, and what I found was pretty interesting. Back in the 70s and 80s, the THC content in marijuana was about 4%. Today, it's about 20 to 30%, and a lot of the vaping that the kids are buying, or even the adults are buying, is 70 to 80% content. This is not your mom and dad's marijuana, or yours when you were little, if you tried it. We already have a drug problem in Kansas. It's fentanyl, and marijuana is a gateway drug, and it's just going to lead to more and further problems. I look at the states around us. It's pretty. You can look at Oklahoma, look at Missouri, look at Colorado. I saw a state police officer in Missouri interviewed, and it kind of caught my attention. And they asked him, they said, if there's one thing you could go back and change, what would it be? And he said, not legalizing marijuana. It creates massive problems, hallucinations, schizophrenia, massive anxiety. Then we get people behind vehicles that are out driving. And I'm also very concerned with the 7-OH as well, that's getting marketed as candy to our children in gas stations and convenience stores.
Thank you very much.
And we need to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Thank you. All right. Former Governor Colyer, we're going to go to you for our next question here, and it's kind of sort of on the same issue of social issues, but we're going to go to abortion. Kansas Supreme Court right now has deemed abortion as a constitutional right in the state of Kansas. As governor, working with the legislature, how would you support the conservative platform of defending the right to life, and how can we work with the legislature to help protect lives of the unborn in the state?
I think this is one of the civil rights issues of our time. How do we defend innocent life? We have a Supreme Court that has found this right to abortion that is nowhere found in that Constitution. Now, the real effect of this is we have suddenly become the destination in the Midwest to come for an abortion. And it's growing so fast. It's our fastest growing industry in the state of Kansas. Without star bonds, by the way. But it's the fastest growing thing. And at the current rates, if we continue, by 2030, we will have more abortions than live births in the state of Kansas. That is not who we are. We are going to comply with the United States Supreme Court, which gave the states the right to decide how to do that. We will. And I have proven to you, with the legislature, we passed multiple bills, the most pro-life experience in the country. And so when I left office, we really were working on the culture of life. And they're going to end up doing a lot of different things, but we need to support innocent life.
Thank you very much. Scott.
Yeah, I don't like talking about when kids die. I don't like talking about it. It hurts. But at what point does a human get constitutional and legal protections? According to the Supreme Court, you don't. That's terrifying. Kay O'Connor once said the best thing we can do, and actually it could work, is start taxing abortions. What we could do, and the court can't say that's unconstitutional. It is frustrating that a court hates its legislature that are elected, which is why this make them, if they don't like the way the legislature's elected, tough. It was a people's choice, certified. And they come back and say, well, I know more than you because I'm going to just put something in the Constitution, and then we can't touch it. We can't touch it. Usurping not only the legislature's authority, but the governor's as well. It's unholy. Our system was meant of 3 equal branches. It's not anymore. The court has all the cards. You want to spend money? You got to get court approval. You want to cut spending? Court's going to slap you. I feel horrible that a young woman could be manipulated and have an abortion, and there's no recourse. This is time we have to hold our courts accountable.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ty.
Thank you, Eddie. Well, one thing about being in the arena, my record's a mile long on life. I've been in the battle on life since right here in Wichita. Some of you remember the Summer of Mercy? In the early 90s, right? We had an abortion doctor that was performing third trimester abortions, partial birth abortions. Been in that battle with my family ever since, because that was right here at home. And we did make great strides in this state for the time that we were there until the Hody's decision. And now we have to be shrewd as a serpent, as innocent as does, because we have a court that has told us everything is presumptively unconstitutional. So we have shifted, and we're going to support mothers, because that's part of life too. We've supported pregnant mothers. We provided child tax credits even during pregnancy, child support during pregnancy. And we're going to continue to do everything we can to protect life until which time we can take steps forward. And I'd appreciate all your help in that battle.
Thank you very much. Joy.
I'm pretty passionate about this issue, and one of the things that makes me passionate is when I listen to the culture talk about the lies. They say things like, well, the only way a woman can have a career is to abort her child. Well, I think I've disproven that, as have many of you ladies in the audience. Or that we don't care for people who are having this issue. We don't really care for them. We just care about them having a baby. But I've seen you step up and pay their utility bills and make sure they have what they need. Or they'll say things like, well, that baby's going to be born into a bad situation. Well, that really bothers me because I was born into a bad situation. What if I wasn't here? What would my family life be like? What would my family's life be like? My son, who's able to be here, who's about to be an Air Force pilot, yeah, thank you, he wouldn't be here to help serve and protect us. That's a lie. So what I want to tell you about me is that I see through those lies, and I see the value of life, and I personally understand it. But also, I've taken such a stand that I've walked away from donors on this issue. I had a donor tell me, well, you think you'll get votes with that? I'm like, I probably will lose votes for that. And he said, well, I'm not going to give you any money. And I'll just tell you that that person gave money to someone on this stage. So there you go. I will never capitulate on this issue. And I'm going to also mention, it concerns me that there are rumors out there in the federal government that we're considering taking the Hyde Amendment and getting away from it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I am glad that all the candidates up here on the stage agree on this issue because it is one of the great travesties of our culture. And for those of you who like to read your Bible, Romans 13 tells us that the government has two responsibilities. Number one is to promote the common good, and number two is to restrain evil. And this is a classic example of restraining evil and doing everything that we can to restrain evil. Heidi and I have been huge supporters of the pro-life movement for decades. We've been huge donors to the pro-life movement for decades. This is very near and dear to our hearts, protecting children, babies, and I will work as your governor every day to reduce the number of abortions in the state of Kansas until we eventually get it to zero, God willing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Charlotte?
Thank you. I'm a mother of 5 and grandmother of 7. My youngest daughter is adopted and probably would have been in that category of a throwaway kid. She is the most beautiful 29-year-old woman you can imagine. I understand the value of life. We had 19,811 abortions in 2024. 35 of those were on children 10 to 14. Little girls. 28 of those were from out of state. on the abortionist paperwork, there is one section that says, do you see any mental, emotional, or physical abuse? Not one of those 35 abortions on those young girls was reported. The year before, there were 6 out of 36. We need to enforce our laws. Every abortion on a girl under 16 must be reported because at the minimum, it's statutory rape. We can put the abortion industry on notice that we are going to enforce our laws. And yes, our crisis pregnancy centers, they are a gift from God, and those women and men that work there are amazing. So yes, I will be a pro-life governor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, for the next couple questions here, you guys first off are rock stars because we went through all the ones with the slides. So we have some other questions, but you will not see slides on these with some of the other current events. But Scott, we're going to start with you on this one, and we're going to go to some of the current events, including the ICE protests in Minneapolis with the leadership, mayors, and governors fighting against the Trump administration to enforce laws. As governor, how would you work to enforce immigration law in the state of Kansas, and what could we do to prevent that type of scenario here in Kansas?
Yeah, you de-escalate first, but I don't understand why you just tell the federal government, no, I don't want your help. It's their job to enforce immigration. And I've worked with CISA, I've worked with the FBI, I've worked with Homeland Security and Election Security, and the administration's been great for us to work with. Absolutely, we're getting tools we haven't had forever. Why would you say no? You can't do your job, and we're going to protect criminals. It makes no sense, and it's a sad situation in Minnesota. But they're trying to throw it all on Trump's feet. There's other players that had a hand in that, and the governor should have been working with the president. Every governor, I don't care the president of your party, you work with the president of the United States. Whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, you work with them because we're Americans and we're supposed to work together. And so you partner with them. And I've found the feds have been a good partner for us.
Very good. Thank you. Ty.
My first comment is thank God for President Trump for closing off our border. It's a travesty what was happening, but we've even seen in Kansas a reduction in like fentanyl, sex trafficking, just from closing the front door and the back door. Right? I mean, it's so grateful. So I have been looking at what's going on in Minneapolis. Look, 30,000 people have been deported from Texas. You don't hear any of it. Less than 3,000 from Minneapolis, and you have shootings. It's because they're not supporting law enforcement. It's the opposite. We have a bill coming that we're working on. We thought we'd introduce it yesterday. Probably won't get it until next week. It's going to actually empower law enforcement, right, to allow safer interactions like that with the woman that was blocking the car and blocking law enforcement to be able to take a vehicle up there and shove it off to the side and not have to engage by hand, right, and dealing with liabilities, things that we can do. I want to prep for it because I'm not having Minneapolis in Kansas. That is not happening. We've got to support President Trump. And the way he's taken out the drug cartels, it is benefiting us today without a single change in the law. Just shutting the door. And so we're going to do everything we can to support law enforcement. Obviously, you need to engage in the safest way possible, and we're going to be in front of that before they get here.
Thank you very much. All right, Joy.
Well, we agree again, Senator. That's great. I'm thankful that President Trump closed the borders, too, because if you look at what was happening to women and children coming across those borders and the way they were being trafficked, it's a travesty. We have borders for a reason. And frankly, I have a lot of friends who've been trying to get their families here legally for decades, and all of those other people are jumping their line. But look, when you look at so we're a nation of laws, and we need to hold those laws up. And I'm really excited happy that KBI signed an agreement with the federal government to work with them. I think the Kansas Highway Patrol could do the same. But when you look at Minneapolis, what you see, if you're a leader, what you know is you need to have enough heat in the room to make change, but not too much that turns into what's happening in Minneapolis. And so I would commend President Trump on reaching out to the Minneapolis mayor and the Minnesota governor and attempting to bring the temperature down so that we can actually do real work, because there are some really terrible people here trying to hurt our citizens. You've seen the stories, and we need to be able to remove them so that our people can be safe and our children can be safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Phil.
Well, first of all, yes, thank God for President Trump. Thank God that he stepped out of the business world to run for president. That was wonderful that he did that. And I would work very closely with President Trump. Keep in mind, what you're seeing in Minnesota is not a problem in all states. Texas was mentioned. Texas has dramatically more ICE agents there than what they do in Minnesota. And you don't hear and see these problems because the governor, the state police, the legislature, they are working with the federal government. They are working with ICE, not against them, like is happening in Minnesota right now. I also want to bring up, we had a issue in Kansas. We had a mayor in Coldwater, Kansas, who was not a citizen. He was mayor, and he was not a citizen, and he voted in an election. And when I am your governor, we will clean up the voter rolls, and we will make sure that that does not happen in our state.
Thank you very much. Charlotte.
Okay, well, what's happening in Minneapolis is it is absolutely connected with all of the fraud in the Somalia community. This is to redirect the attention from that fraud to now saying, oh, the ICE enforcement, that's the problem. No, the problem is that we have very, very, very dangerous people in the United States that need to be brought and exited from this nation. My son-in-law is a deputy for the Johnson County Sheriff's Department, and I'm here to tell you that our Democrat sheriff will not cooperate with ICE. We were in the process of signing the 287G with Sheriff Hayden. He was in that process, and it has been abandoned. We had a boots-on-the-ground organization meeting for anti-ICE tactics at the Nottingham by the Green Clubhouse on January the 7th. It's here. They take any incident and they will blow it up, and they will do everything they can to escalate. We have to stand by our law enforcement community. Stand strong. Stand strong.
Thank you very much. Jeff.
So I'm a plastic surgeon. I do reconstructive surgery. My whole practice is if you get shot in the hand or get shot in the face, I'm your guy. And I cover 3 hospitals in Kansas City. Okay. And it's unbelievable the number of illegal aliens that I have to take care of, that I've never paid for, but we're going to treat them like humans. This is a real problem. It affects every hospital. It affects every family. It affects every program. We know that there is fraud in a lot of our programs. There's $1 billion of fraud, as Charlotte has pointed out. We have to do something about that. We've got to reduce that. President Trump has made a tremendous step by sealing the border. Nobody's coming across. That's fantastic. We had to close the door. But now we've got to deal with the situation here. There are true criminal illegal aliens that threaten our families, and we need to make sure they go. In Kansas, we have sanctuary cities and we have sanctuary sheriffs, and they are going to cooperate with ICE. The United States Supreme Court, when President Obama brought this up before the U.S. Supreme Court, said states can't run this, it's the federal government. And we need to make sure that we back the blue and that we make sure that Kansas is the best state.
Thank you very much. All right, based on time, we have one question left that we'll go through, everyone, before we go to our closing remarks. But for this last question, we're going to start with you, Ty, going down the line, and it's going to be on the topic of energy, as Kansas has now become one of the first micro-nuclear plants that was built in Parsons, Kansas. It's also been the hotspot for a lot of alternative energy throughout the years with wind farms. As governor, do you support the idea of continued alternative energy like wind and solar in the state? And how would you prepare for the future energy demands in Kansas?
No, it's a good question, and energy is a big topic. You know, I'm with Donald Trump, all the above, right? They need to be treated fairly. Ultimately, nuclear. I'm excited for the research in nuclear because ultimately we are going to need nuclear power, particularly in the race we have for AI. We can't afford to lose that. We can't cede that to China or really anywhere else on the planet, and we need that energy here. And so I support all the above. It does need to be treated fairly. I am not for the incentives for the wind and solar over every other form. We need to treat that all equally, but we need all the above coming into this state because between AI and just the natural demand, we have a tremendous amount of energy needs to come. And to grow, for Kansas to grow, we need the energy. And so I support nuclear, I support it all. But we need to treat it all fairly and bring as much of it as we can here to support growth in this state.
Thank you very much. Joy.
Well, as a businesswoman, I always think innovation is great, and giving entrepreneurs an opportunity to innovate is a wonderful thing, but they should be responsible about it. We have a lot of rural communities that are very upset about what's happening in their communities with some of the wind farms and the solar farms and the noise that they're creating and the agricultural land that they're pulling out. And we need to make sure that we are responsible about that because Kansas feeds the world. And you know, I agree. We should not be giving out special treatment to any business. And so when I think about deals like what was made for Panasonic, they're going to get cut rate energy deals. That was probably part of the big quiet deal they all negotiated. And the rest of us are going to get stuck with the bill for that. All of our businesses, all of our homes, we're the ones that are going to get stuck with that bill. Because this is what happens. We say we don't want special treatment for energy, but there are energy groups that have given a lot of money to people on this stage, and they're beholden to those groups, and so they make these deals for things like electricity that create problems for us. They're going to do the same thing with data centers. Data centers, if you look at Arizona and you talk to people in Arizona, they're going to tell you data centers don't bring in a lot of new employees, and they use a lot of natural resources like water and electricity. I'm not saying data centers are a bad thing. I use data centers in my business, but I don't think the government should be underwriting a data center. I think that the data center should make sense of its own books. Thanks.
Thank you. Bill.
Can I ask one of the candidates a question? Can we do that?
Sure.
Okay. Because Ty said he was against the wind turbines, but I'm pretty sure he voted yes for a 10-year tax abatement for the wind turbines, I believe in about 2015. Is that not correct?
So 45 seconds to respond to that.
I also don't remember. So, but if it was 2015, those turbines came in under Brownback, and I probably did vote for whatever that the Republicans were doing because we needed the industry. But on that point, it's about the jobs, right? We need jobs in Kansas, careers in Kansas. It's just it's run its time. There should not be incentive on any of it. Wind, solar, anything should not have the incentive over anything else. All that technology is mature, and we need all forms of energy.
All right.
Just clarifying. So that's a yes vote. Well, I would be voting no if I had the chance on giving 10-year tax abatements to wind turbines. And I would also be voting no on giving 20-year tax abatements to data centers. I would also make sure the data centers are providing their own energy. They can come in and do that, and some of the other states have done that as well. And what we need to do is we need to create an attractive economy with low tax rates and low regulations so that businesses want to come to Kansas. And without question, for the last 30 years, that's what I have done, building businesses and creating jobs, and we are going to do that all over the state of Kansas. And then we're not going to have to give all these tax abatements to the wind turbines and to the data centers, et cetera. Nebraska just did something really interesting. They are doing carbon capture. It is their Trailblazer pipeline. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but it is a phenomenal deal that they just did. It was their Washington, D.C. delegation, their governor, their legislator, their ranchers, their farmers, all coming together for sustainable aviation fuel. That is our neighbor right to the north. And we need to stop getting left behind on things like this. We need bold innovation and leadership to make it happen. Man, I have a lot more to say.
In 1999, our Republican governors signed a 100% property tax exemption for all alternative energy. And we have been subsidizing the wind and the solar industry for far too long. Absolutely no tax exemptions. Now they are on a 10-year. Absolutely none. And on the AI data center, our Republican-controlled legislature passed, I believe it was in 2024 or 2025, that AI data centers do not have to pay sales tax on their construction materials. They should not have any corporate welfare. They should provide their own energy. We cannot afford it. We have a manufacturing company that demands constant and reliable energy. And when you have the AI data centers sucking all the energy up and you have brownouts, well, our business is going to suffer because it just doesn't work. So absolutely, the AI data centers can pay for themselves, and the idea that we would even consider corporate welfare for that industry in particular, and any industry that we know if Kansas is no longer the high tax point on the prairie, that these companies will come here. You can't buy them to come. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Kansas is the 8th largest oil and gas state. It's the cornerstone of our economy. And we need to make sure that we are producing fossil fuels and we're producing that energy. And we got to continue that process because it's jobs, particularly Southwest Kansas and across the state. But going on with that, we are in all of the above energy, but no special gifts to people. Now, for those who have never been in this job, in order to do this, you've got to go through the KCC. We need to change how the KCC functions. That is the agency that runs this. We need to have our own different rate structure so that companies that come in that are data centers, they need to have their own rate structure, not fit in under something else, because they're sucking up so much energy. They need to be able to bring their own. And so when you're governor and you come in and you have that experience, you don't have to know where the bathroom is. You know where it is in the Capitol, and you also know who belongs in each one. But I'm sorry, I had to. However, we've got to grow our economy, and we need to make sure that we're all of the above, working with Donald Trump on this, and no special giveaways.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Scott.
Next to the human resource, energy is one of the most important resources we're going to have. And so utilizing new technologies is huge for Kansas because it's going to make it more affordable because our power bills are not going down. But it's not just the data centers. It's manufacturing is paying a higher and higher cost in the state of Kansas because of power. And if we want to increase opportunities in our rural communities, whether it's Southwest Kansas, Northwest Kansas, Southeast Kansas, Central Kansas, where I'm from, it's going to mean we have to make it sustainable and affordable. And this is a new opportunity to do that. But right now we have a chance with onshoring, being on the I-135, I-35, and I-70 corridor to bring back manufacturing to our rural communities. But it has to be affordable power and affordable energy. And if we can use every resource that's available, then let's go. Because it's not just that you're powering your house, but it's trying to give those rural opportunities for kids growing up in small towns, that they can stay there and have a future in that town. And manufacturing is going to be huge for it, and it's got to be sustainable and affordable by having energy sources that can provide it. It's also huge for small towns and hospitals. Hospitals need ongoing, consistent power. If that small town loses their hospital, you lose the small town. Because nobody's going to move a business to a town that doesn't have a hospital. And it's all based on sustainable energy sources.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we're ready for closing remarks, which are 2 minutes long, and we're going to, per the debate rules, go back to candidate number one and go down the line here.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
Charlotte, you are up for 2 minutes.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yes, my family, as I stated, has been in Kansas since 1869. And family farmers, I was raised on a family farm. In fact, the first house that I lived in until I was 5 years old, we didn't have indoor plumbing. We we heated with wood stove, milked cows by hand, and I had that rural experience. I graduated from KU. I have been the 3rd District Chairwoman. I served in the Kansas House. And I'm going to tell you my experience of serving on the Johnson County Commission during COVID. We took $235 million and just frittered it away. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. I understand how bloated this government is at the local level and at the state level. I have the experience as a businesswoman, as a general contractor. Now we have a small manufacturing company with my 2 sons. This state can be successful, but we have to get our taxes under control, and we have to get our schools functioning. They're not. They're just not. What are we doing? You have got to elect a governor who's not afraid to come out and say, this is the problem. This is how we're going to fix it. We're going to cut the expenses. We're going to give the opportunities to the local school districts to step up and provide those opportunities for our children. We're not going to be tied to the federal government and be required to have all of these longitudinal testing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff.
I have a lot of friends up here on the stage, and I think there's actually some really great ideas. We Republicans can transform this state. And tonight, I actually have a lot of hope after hearing this debate. The job of governor is a tough job. You're dealing with $26 billion, 22,000 employees, a GDP of over $100 billion, a complexity there. But it really is about serving Kansans every single day. The real question is, who will deliver on this? President Trump was numbers 45 and 47. I would be numbers 47 and 49. Now, to show you who can do the job, let's look at a little bit of history. As governor, there were more Kansans working than ever before in the history of the state. We made sure that we had a right to life. The culture of life was on the rise. We were increasing our budget, or we were increasing our improvements in our budget, and I left an $800 million surplus to Laura Kelly. We can change things. We can do it. We've done it. Now, what are we going to do as a state? What we're going to do is we're going to grow our economy, put more money in your pocket. We're going to make sure that it's about education, not indoctrination. We'll eliminate fraud for people. We're going to make sure that we back the blue, that we protect our communities. And it's going to be about common sense and bringing that back to Kansas. In Kansas, there are a lot of challenges, and we cannot wait. Who is going to deliver? That is going to be the question. A lot of promises are made by politicians. We deliver. So I'm going to ask you for your help, that we are going to take back Kansas. We're going to make this the beating heart of America once again. And I am Jeff Colyer, Governor Jeff Colyer, and we are going to win for you.
There we go. Scott. Scott.
Follow the rules. I will follow the rules. I want to remind you, it's modernize, revitalize, and fix. It doesn't matter how much you want to cut taxes if we can't make them affordable. We've cut taxes in the future, but we didn't reduce spending. We didn't reduce spending because we fund outdated systems. We need to make it more affordable. Our small towns are getting smaller. And when people go home, they know it. They see it. And it's putting bigger tax burden on our metropolitan areas. We need to make it a focus of not just energy, but also workforce development in those small towns so that when that kid graduates from high school, he has an opportunity to stay home. And we have to fix the appraisal process. I'm the only one who laid out a tax plan on property taxes specifically. And it's free market and it holds locals accountable. We cannot have another real estate bubble in the state of Kansas. It'll hurt our schools, it'll hurt our towns, it'll hurt all our communities and our ability to defend ourselves. So, modernize, revitalize, fix. If you want to know why you should vote for Scott Schwab, those are 3 things that we'll do.
Thank you very much. Ty.
Well, thank you all for coming out on a Friday night to learn. Special thank you to my bride of 32 years for hanging with me that long. She's been my sounding board, and lately she's been my driver, which has been kind of fun, so thank you. Love you, baby. I hope what you've seen tonight is an effective fighter, a man in the arena that is doing the time, the most capable of defeating the Democrats. That is who the enemy is. Donald Trump is a battle-tested, proven leader, and he delivers. I'm a battle-tested, proven leader, and you've seen it deliver. We have monster issues to tackle in the next few years. With property tax and education, they've been third rails. That takes proven leadership. We can pretend we're Donald Trump, but there's no one on this stage that's Donald Trump. There is no other Donald Trump, quite frankly. There's not even another Ronald Reagan. Those guys come around once in a generation, and he's here. We have got to work with him. All you can do when that's your line is tell you what I think I can do, I hope I can do. I know a guy. I've demonstrated it. And I've been called the MAGA candidate to beat by the Kansas City Star. You knew they didn't mean that as a compliment. I've been called brutally affected by the Kansas Reflector. Also didn't mean it as a compliment. But that's what I will be, is brutally effective in what we do for you. Donald Trump is a battle-tested, proven leader, and he is delivering for America. I am a battle-tested, proven leader, and with your help, join me, stand with me. I need your support and your vote. Kansas will experience its piece of American greatness. God bless you all.
Very good. Thank you, Joy.
Sorry, I heard you say that, but I was still sitting here thinking about, is the standard for governor that we know where the bathroom is in the Capitol? Because I think a lot of us might make it there. But seriously, tonight, as we close, we're at a crossroads. We can select a career politician who will continue to steward our decline. We'll watch our children fall further behind. We'll see our taxes keep going up. And we'll see our friends and family leave this place we love. Or we could choose a Kansas comeback. Look, I'm running for governor because I love Kansas. And I believe in the spirit and the grit of our people. But the Kansas comeback has never been about Joy Akins. It's about you and your children and your grandchildren and what kind of state will they inherit. It's about building a state where every family has a future and an opportunity and a reason to stay. If you give me the honor of your vote, I will fight every day to open the doors of opportunity. Look, I know making a change takes a little courage. And I am so thankful for the many, many Kansans who have already joined the Kansas comeback. I hope you'll join us for a Kansas comeback. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Bill.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for coming out. You have heard a lot of plans this evening. You've heard a lot of promises this evening. And quite frankly, you've heard a lot of excuses this evening. I would like to remind you all that the candidates that I'm running against have over 100 years in political office between them. And I have a question for you. What has it gotten you? Listen, if you like your property taxes and your income taxes where they are, then I am probably not your candidate. And if you like businesses and jobs and good Kansans leaving the state, then I am probably not your candidate. And if you like losing the governor's race to Democrats, then I am definitely not your candidate. I mentioned to you that I grew up, my father was a janitor, and we grew up in a very blue-collar family, a very small 950 square foot home. And I remember one time as a young child, I was very young, probably 7 or 8 years old, and I walked into the kitchen, and my mom was sitting at the kitchen table, and she had bills spread out all over, and she had tears coming down her face because she didn't know what bills she was going to pay. And I can promise you, as your governor, that memory will drive every decision I make as governor on your behalf and the behalf of the people of the state of Kansas. If you are tired of losing, if you are tired of politics as usual, if you are tired of career politicians, then let's send some business sense to Topeka. Let's send some common sense to Topeka.
Thank you.
It's time to start winning again. Join me.
Thank you.
I'd love to have your vote. Thank you very much.
There we go. Our 6 main candidates for the Republican governor's debate. One more round of applause, everybody, for everybody up on stage. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for coming out. And thank you so much for tuning in here. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy the rest of the GOP convention. We'll have some updates for you as well. A word of note for you regarding the KFL. If you did purchase an ambassador ticket, that does not include the KFL lunch tomorrow. Just a heads up.
Yes.
If you purchase the ambassador ticket, that does not include the KFL luncheon for tomorrow. You can get your tickets at the KFL table directly outside of the hall here tonight.
Oh, yeah. No, I said every time.